to think about. But yeah, it's surprisingly how easy something is to accomplish when we focus on. There's a saying out there, forget where I heard it from, what you focus on expands. I'm joking, that's a bold law, guys. That's a bold law. What you focus on expands. So when you just pay attention to it, that's why I said, if you're focusing on it, you're probably going to earn more than that when you're really paying attention to the activities. So any other comments, questions, concerns, excitements about the seller regression analysis? Wow, one.
I do. Math. I screwed up with the formula here.
Okay.
So I get where you get your gross, your net, your listing, your buy. How do you figure out how many houses you have to sell?
So I take, so are you okay? Our income divided by our average commission gets us our total sales volume.
Yep.
I then divide that by the average price.
Okay.
So 7.2 million divided by 500,000 average selling price gets me to 14 point something, which we round up to 15.
Okay, thanks.
And then we again divide that by 80% to get listings closed to listings taken. Divide that by 65% to get listings taken to listing appointments.
Just FYI, your sheet, and I understand what you're saying, but your sheet is saying multiply. You're saying divide, so it's in reverse.
I'm going down versus up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's look at the buyer side. We're going to run through the buyer side really fast though, because you kind of got how it flows. So what's our average commission on the buyer side? 2.5. That's what's offered out in most places, right? We don't have a whole lot of control over that. 200,000 divided by 2.5% is, my friends with the calculators? 200,000 divided by 0.025. Someone help me out. Anybody? 7.3? 7.3 million? No, this was 2.75 over here. So it should be a little bit higher. $8 million. So we need $8 million in buyer sold value in order to make $200,000. Again, you see the difference between 1/4%, right?
Yep.
Let's look at this for a second. 1/4% more in commission means you can do 1.5 transactions less and make the same money. Is that not hot for anyone else in the room but me? So again, you have a choice. Either charge more or sell more houses. But what a great way to find balance in your world. If you charge a higher commission, you can reduce how many homes you have to sell. Is our average price the same, 500,000? So we need to sell 16 buyers sold. Now, what's the best way to accomplish these goals at the same time? Make sure you're taking the buyers you meet to your listings. How much more fun is it to get both sides of the commission as opposed to just one? Can I use you as an example?
Sure.
How you been now? 4 years, 5 years?
4 years.
4 years.
Well, 10 years with Brenda.
Yeah, 10 years with Brandex. And her first deal here, she double-sided. And we had to work with how we do that and how we service it. She got both the buyer and the seller. And I remember saying to Denise, hey, well, it's a very similar policy to most companies. She goes, well, in 10 years with Brandex, yellow signs. In 10 years with Brandex, she had never double-sided her own listing before. She had never sold her own listing. How many times about have you done it so far since you've been here 4 years?
6.
So 6 times in the last 4 years she sold her own listing. It's a lot more fun making twice the commission on the same amount of work, isn't it? You just close on one?
Yep.
And what was that price?
Yes. 600.
So $1.2 million in sold value by selling one house because she had the buyer and the seller 6 times. I did a study once a few years ago. Our competition does it. The listing agent sells their own house about 1% of the time. With our 2 biggest competition. Yellow signs, blue signs. About 1% of the time. At that time, we were averaging about 20% of the time our listing agent was selling their own listing. So when you get your lead on your listing, your lead, it makes life a lot easier to sell your own properties. When your company takes the lead and sells it to somebody else, it's a lot harder to sell your own listings. Does that make sense?
Yes. Rachel?
I can't wait to see how I get sued with that one. All right. Matt, we're gonna edit that out of the video too, please. So 16 buyers sold, right? So what we say here, sorry. Then we ask, what's the conversion rate between buyers sold and what we call buyer contracts? What's a buyer contract? I hear it over here. An exclusive buyer's agreement. Do you use exclusive agencies agreements with as part of your service for buyers? By an honest show of hands, raise your hand if you use exclusive buyer agencies when you work with buyers. Thank you. But look, roughly 6 out of 60. A lot of people. Why don't we? Why don't we use buyer's agency agreements?
Well, I am going to start to use it because I took these buyers 4 times. They saw a house this past Friday that they love it. It was their dream home. And she called me 2 days later saying, oh, I didn't know this really works with the real estate. So I called my father-in-law that he has a real estate license down the shore, and I just want to let you know that we placed an offer, and thank you so much for your time.
Now, I'm sure you're not the only person that's experienced that.
No.
But that was my
Reach
first
through
time.
the phone and go.
The biggest burn I ever had was I showed a guy, this was like 5 years ago. So, I was still a little wet behind the ears. Showed a guy 40 houses, we had a really good, we had a really good,
Hey guys,
we had a really good rapport. And
40 homes showed.
yeah, but then he lost his job, okay? Then a year later, he called me back, he got a new job, and we started looking at houses again. And while we're looking at houses, he calls me up, one weekend and says, like, I'm supposed to be happy for him. Hey, I'm under contract on a house. I'm like, what? I walked into an open house. It was like a $600,000 listing, and he walked into an open house and met the agent and bought the house. And meanwhile, I stuck with the guy over the course of a year when he lost his job, and we kept in touch. And
Painful, right?
yeah, there was no rhyme or reason.
But how does it?
Yeah, someone want to share? And then hand was up.
Yeah, I had a question, because I've been always, it's a sticky situation, because the one we get from NJAR is not enforceable in court at all. So it's just a little piece of paper that they're signing to scare.
But I don't think
Well,
that's what it's meant to be.
I'll tell you 2 things.
But for some situations, it should be.
Well, here's what it comes down to. If you have a buyer's agency agreement signed, you will get paid. I've been a broker now for 12 years.
I haven't got paid.
Right?
And it's with the same agent, me and him got back
Who's
and
your
forth.
broker?
So at the end of the day, if you got it signed and you're following up, that should bulletproof you a lot more. So I'm not going to get into enforceable and non-enforceable. If we're using it the right way and doing it, it's the mental commitment, it's making the buyer do. When you say to someone, hey, looking forward to working together, look them in the eye and shake their hand. They're committing to you. So I've got a lot more stories on how we succeeded using the buyer's agency, and very, very few that I got burned anyway. Typically when I hear the I got burned anyway, someone, and I'm not saying you, someone that did it one time and didn't work, and they use that as justification for why they're not going to do it anymore. So what I would say is use it, because it works at a very high level.
I'd be interested to see or hearing the correlation between a real buyer consultation and the buyer contract.
I'll never forget my very first mega camp back in 2006. There was this guy, and he was up on stage talking about his buyer consultation. They literally came into his office, they sat with one of his buyer's agents, and they put a VHS tape in the TV. Yes, we were still using VHS tapes in the office in 2006. Shows you how quickly technology expanded. They put a VHS tape, and it was the Rainmaker saying, hey, this is how we work, this is how our service works. You're sitting with your buyer's agent, and we're more than happy to give you A, B, C, and D as part of our service. All you have to do is sign an agreement and pay a $500 retainer, and we'll be happy to service you. Now, I'm not saying go out there and start charging retainers, guys. It's not the purpose of my thing, but
Everybody's brainwashed.
he signed 126 of those agreements that year, and sold 124 of those buyers' houses. So once again, 126 times 500 is a whole lot of money he made just on the retainers. That wasn't given back. That wasn't credited at closing. That wasn't used for a home warranty. That was a a retainer as an attorney or a doctor would charge you for a doctor visit. And you had a very high rate, because once someone pays something, they want something in return.
Right.
So all I'll say about buyer's agency agreement is they work more times than they don't. Do we know?
I drafted something like that.
Do you know the number one reason, the number one objection that buyers give to not signing buyer's agency agreements? Number one objection.
Wasn't ever.
The other agent never told us does it.
The other agent I'm working with didn't ask me to sign one of these.
Well, I just tell them that this allows me to, as a buyer's agent, this allows me to show you the home.
Yeah. And here's the thing, guys, and this is the last thing I'll say about buyer's agency agreements. We have this thing in the contract that's called a disclosure statement that says we disclose ourselves as what, for most buyers, where you're selling Brand X's listing. We're a buyer's agent. So we have this opinion 26 that says we're a buyer's agent. The disclosure section of the contract says we're a buyer's agent. Where did you ever get signed permission to act as a buyer's agent? CIS is just notification. It doesn't authorize you to negotiate on their behalf as buyer's agents. By state law, we're required to have a buyer's agency agreement in that folder. If you say you're a buyer's agent, you need something giving you permission. So, quick tip, get it signed. Even if you sign it as you're negotiating the contract, which is when most people sign it. You technically need a buyer's agency signed to act as a buyer's agent. Any ahas there for anybody on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You got two things that say you're a buyer's agent, but nowhere did you ever get permission from your buyer to act as their agent. So get them signed. Rule of thumb, get them signed as part of your process. It's going to save you a lot of time. A lot of time. So what we tend to say is if you're using a buyer's agency agreement, you're going to close 80% of the buyers that you decide to get into a relationship with. You're going to close 80%. If you don't use a buyer's agency agreement, 20, 30%. Once again, raise your hand if you ever had a buyer go somewhere else and buy a house after you put time into them. It will reduce if you use a buyer's agency agreement. So, 16 divided by 0.8. 16 divided by 20. Now here's the thing. Only 65% of the appointments you go on will agree to sign the buyer's agency agreement. Only 65%.
Just back to that 500 retainer, are we allowed to do that in New Jersey?
Check with your broker. Check with your broker. I will tell you that. I know when I first got into the business, I did rentals, a lot of them,
Yeah,
about 110 of them a year.
yeah.
And I did not meet with a single person unless they signed a rental agency agreement with me, the buyer's representation agreement, and paid me a $25 application fee.
Okay.
So we accepted that as part of our standard pro quo. And I accepted 200 apps a year and closed 100 to 110 renters a year. So yes, you can do it, just make sure it correlates with your broker's policies.
Okay, thank you.
20 buyer listings or 20 buyer contracts taken based on an 80% conversion rate.
So if you take 20 buyer agency agreements, you will close 60 of them. Now, what's 20 divided by 0.65? 30 what? 31. So here's my thing. If I have a choice between running around and showing houses after house after house after house to 31 or 20, I don't know about you guys. I'd much rather commit to 20 people that commit to me. Instead of, yes, I'll meet you at this house, I'll meet you at this house, I'll meet you at this house. At the end of the day, your conversion is exactly the same. So, just jump right in. Let's say you meet 10 buyers, right? Let's say you don't use a buyer's agency agreement, you're just winging it. You're meeting them at their time, when they want to, where they want to. On average, 10 people will work with you that way, because you have to make absolutely no commitment. But statistically, you're going to close 2 houses. You can get about 20% conversion on that, because the other are going to disappear. They're going to buy with their friend, they're going to buy with a family member, they're going to walk into the open house, because they didn't know any better. Because you know what? Everyone thinks that realtors make big base salaries.
Yeah.
And we're all independently wealthy. They don't realize that we're a commission-based job. So you go this way, only 6.5 will work with you under a buyer's agency agreement. But you'll sell 4.5. So again, I will tell you time and time again, I'd much rather work this way than this way. Let's say I stink at this, and I only sell the same 2. I'd much rather commit to 6 people selling 2 than 10 people selling 2. What's your time worth? It was really easy talking about this when gas was $4.50 a gallon. But what's your time worth? So, in this example, 31 appointments in order to get 20 buyer contracts, 16 buyers sold for $8 million for $200,000. Make sense? So if we do this over 10 months, 9 months we'll say, 31 divided by 9 is about 3.5, 4. So again, if you want to make $250,000 a year, you need to meet 1 buyer and 1 seller every week. 1 buyer, 1 seller every week. Is it still easy? Still easy.
Yeah, where's that?
Still easy. I need.
We all know what this business is like sometimes, but boy, when we break it down to that, I'm like, what is wrong with you, Idell, that you're not doing that?
2 appointments a week.
Right.
Who wants to share some, for those of you that have done this, who wants to share your top number? I'm gonna hear a net gross number of appointments. Anyone want to share what you want to earn and how many appointments you need a week or a month to earn it?
My number is 750.
750,000.
500, 750 gross.
Okay.
I'm gonna need basically 50 appointments, listing appointments a year, so 1 a week.
50, so 1 listing appointment a week.
Taking 2 weeks off. I'll take more, but whatever. And 43 sales. But my conversion rate is actually pretty good with my buyers. Again, it's all about the value add
Yep.
that you give to them. So my conversion rate's pretty good. So, I gave myself 60 some odd per year.
So roughly 1.5
One and-
buyer appointments a week.
Right. Well, I'm going to do 2 to 3. Just
So you need a total of 100 appointments a year
basically.
in order to get to $500,000 net. 100 appointments a year. Anyone else want to share? Tom?
So I plan for 18 sides to get to $225,000 gross
So
commission.
225 gross, you need 18 transactions.
You need 9 sides, right, 9 of each. And I did it differently. I said 30% conversion on the buyers.
So Tom is newer in the business, so you take into account
So
that.
taking 30%, I'm not sure I'm going to get all these agreements.
So he's using a lower conversion rate,
And I get 46 appointments I need. For
46 appointments.
buyers and 22 listings.
Okay.
Appointments.
How many a week?
So,
So what I would always do is
2 a week.
break it down to weekly and then have someone hold you accountable. And the script looks like this. What's your number? I don't have a chance, I called you out there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The number's 54.
54.
For 1.7 per week, I can do it in half a transaction a day.
So 1.7 is your weekly number. So I would go to you and say, what's your number? 1.7. How'd you do this week? 2, 1. Well, if it's 1, how many you can do next week to make up for the 0.7 you missed? And that's that whole accountability thing. Again, part of this is knowing your number. The other part is tracking your number to see if you're accomplishing it. Regression analysis makes sense? Get a coach, get a partner, get a peer, get someone that will ask you that question once a week. What's your number?
Keep score.
You know, what you focus on expands. If you keep score, you're going to accomplish a whole lot more. Any questions about the economic model? Regression worksheet? Everyone got a number? Everyone got a number? So again, hopefully everyone's got a number. I'm going to kind of call you out for a second. It's going to be awkward. I'm not looking at anybody in particular with a statement. How much is your time worth? Does anyone here know what your time is worth?
$300 an hour.
$350 an hour, $109 an hour, $300 an hour. Number one, what is your time worth? You need to make sure you understand that. What is your time worth? Here's your quick way of calculating that. Here's your quick way of calculating that. Someone share me the top number we were just looking at was 400. So I need to generate $400,000 of commission this year. How many weeks of the year am I gonna work? 50, 48? 48, 50? Let's use 50 for the sake of argument. What's 400,000 divided by 50? 8,000. So I need $8,000 per week. How many hours in a week am I gonna work?
20.
50.
Let's say 40 hours. But how many times how much are you gonna lead generate? Probably 15 hours of lead gen time, right? So my time is worth $200 an hour in general. Because I just took the amount of money I'm earning in a year, divided by the weeks, divided by the hours, gives me how much my time is worth.
Michael,
Now,
you're using gross though? You're using gross.
But you gotta generate it.
Okay.
In order for you to net 250, you've gotta generate 400. So I'm gonna use the amount of money that your time is worth by how much money you can produce. How much do you have to produce? Not net. So net would be lower, but here's the thing. Let's say it's net's 100. Well, if you just do that, you're not gonna net what you want to net, right? So I'm always gonna use this based on what you gross, because you gotta generate that first and foremost.
And the 40 hours was a week?
This was a week. Now your lead generation time is worth a heck of a lot more, because you're only doing 15 hours. So what's 8,000 divided by 15? 8,000 divided by 15? 400 and something, 468? 533. Your lead generation time is worth $533 an hour. Do you think you're valuable as a lead generator? Yeah. Let's just look at this for a second. Your time is worth $200 an hour. Most of you got here at 10 this morning, you're going to leave at 2. That's 4 hours. You invested $800 into today. If you don't walk out of here with something that you can use, if you don't walk out of here at least with knowing your number, you just threw $800 out the window. Okay? So I'd like to remind you, so when I said before, I want everyone leaving here with a number, that's why. I want you to leave with something you can take action on, because you just invested a lot more than $30 to be in this class. Make sense? It's good.
There was an agent, a top producing agent, that reduced his numbers the way you did, and then said how many contacts he needed to make in order to do that. When he spoke to his prospects, he would say things like, every 15 people I talk to, I sell one of my houses. Would you like me to get talking to people for you? And it was a really good conversion, a really great way to look at that number practically.
Well, that brings us right into the lead generation model, right? Thank you, Sekou. We're perfect timing. So we go back to this conversation. I'm actually take this off the hands for a second. So we don't lose track of this. We need 31 closings and 60 appointments. So the lead generation model helps us create a plan of being able to accomplish that. Anyone interested in how we find people to do that much business? Yeah. So in the book, page 138, and keep in mind this is old. This is 2001. They're in the process of a rewrite. They've been talking about that for about 4 years now. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. They're in the process of the rewrite where they're going to add social media and things like that to this book. He started it and then he got onto the one thing and put it in his drawer, and he's coming back to it now. Bless you. So back in the early 2000s, this was the ways they broke down prospecting versus marketing. Now, what do you think is more important for your business? Prospecting or marketing? Prospecting. In 3612.3, it says your business should be prospecting focused and marketing enhanced. Prospecting focused and marketing enhanced. Now, Gene Rivers is coming in 3 weeks to teach a class in White Plains. He's got a team in Tallahassee, Florida, and they do about 200 transactions a year, his team. Back in the day, back in 2005, he was spending about $10,000 a month in marketing. The billboards, the signs, the newspaper ads, the yellow book. Well, from 2006, his market shifted. In the first year, sold volume in his market dropped by 52%. We all felt that to some degree back in 2006, 2007, right? What he did really quickly was he pulled back on all of his marketing and got his team back on the phones. So he was a marketing focused company that enhanced with prospecting, and he shifted it to go prospecting focused, marketing enhanced. So for example, prospecting focused, marketing enhanced would be a phone call followed up by a handwritten note, right? The handwritten note is the marketing, the phone call is the prospect. So take a look at this list, it's also in your workbook. What are some other things that you can do that's not on this list? That would be a way to prospect. How else can we prospect? Door knocking. Does door knocking work? I know people making a lot of money door knocking. A lot of money. What else?
Wear your name tag.
Wear your name tag. Wear your name tag and go to Home Depot.
Yeah.
Wear it upside down.
I had a contest a few years. I had 7 people in my office, and we had a contest one weekend. Everyone's got to spend 2 hours at Home Depot and see how many leads we can get. They all wear their name tag. 7 people found 30 leads in Home Depot in 1 weekend. People are at Home Depot for a reason.
Yeah.
They're fixing their house. Maybe they want to buy something. Maybe they want to sell something. If nothing else, they're probably curious on how what they do to their house is going to affect their value. Wear your name tag and go to Home Depot.
Or wear it upside down.
Yeah, wear it upside down. People look at it even more. I used to have this shirt. I can't find it. I got it at a convention a couple years back. And it said, interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, tap me on the shoulder. And once again, a great t-shirt to wear when you're going to those places. It's a walking billboard. You can ask my wife, rarely do I go out on the weekend where I don't wear some type of clothing that has the name of my company on it. You're a walking billboard. So yeah, wear your name tag. Wear something with your company name on
At
it.
Mega Camp, they had onesies, like, for your newborn. I'm gonna get one, you know, whenever we have our next child.
But you gotta put that on the baby, not yourself, Nick. You wearing your onesie.
I'm not gonna get that, but it said like, I'm a Keller Williams, you know.
Keller Williams kid.
Keller Williams, yeah. Or like, you know, my dad's a real estate agent, or my dad works for Keller, you know, something, make your kids a billboard, you know?
Help feed me.
Exactly.
Help my dad.
Sell your house and eat gas.
Sell your house, I need to eat. That's a t-shirt.
We sell a profit share.
What are some other prospecting ideas?
Something I used to do years ago, and I kind of fell out of the habit, I gotta get back into, is give everyone your business card. You go out to dinner, you sign your credit card bill, put 2 of your business cards in it and give it back. You go get any of those things that you do, you go get your oil changed, you leave 2 business cards with the service rep or with the mechanic. You go do anything you do, you give somebody a business card. I would have months of giving out 500, 1,000 business cards in a month. And, you know, at the time when I was doing that, I was doing 5, 6, 7, 8 sales a month.
What's holding you back from still doing that now?
Nothing.
So when are you going to get those business cards in your pocket and start doing it again?
Yesterday. I ordered them already.
Did you guys catch that? That's called accountability. That little quick question and answer. What's holding you back? What's going to take you to do it? When are you going to do that by? That's what I'm talking about when we talk about accountability. I just want to make a comment. You mentioned mechanic, getting your car serviced. There's this guy who used to work with, his name is Tim Frangioso. He wrote this great blog on Active Rain that got so popular in 07 that it actually made MSN Real Estate. He told the story of the power of a handwritten note. After he got his car serviced, he wrote a handwritten note to the mechanic that said, "Thank you for servicing my car. I really appreciate you did great work." He got called from that mechanic about 3 weeks later and said, "You know what? In all my years, 25 years of being a mechanic, no one's ever taken the time to thank me like that. I really appreciate it. My brother's buying a house." Over that next year, he got 6 referrals from his mechanic because he wrote a note. So whether it's a business card, a note, take the time to do that. That stuff works.
Yeah, I started doing with my landscaper. Every time I pay a bill, I put a business card, and I already got 2 leads from him.
There you go.
Because he's doing so many houses, you know?
Yes.
This is not real estate related, but that is very important. I was in high school recruited for a first student athlete, and I used to get so many letters, I wouldn't even look at them. And it took a whole year and just stacked them up in a box. And at the end of my junior year, I got one coach that wrote me a handwritten letter, and that's the school I went to.
Nice.
The power of that personal contact, right? That acknowledgement. You know, it's funny, when we talk about these things, that was athletics. We're talking about real estate, mortgage. I had a buddy, I'm going to talk about this 8x8 in a few minutes. I had a buddy that got his plumber's license. Right, he got licensed as a plumber in New Jersey, and I said, there's this 8x8 concept. Make a list of everybody you know, then send them 8 touches over 8 weeks to let them know you're in the plumbing business. I caught up with them like 6, 8 months later, I said, how's it going? He goes, it's going gangbusters, I've got more work than I can handle. I said, great, how do you feel about that? He goes, well, good, except my old boss is hitting me right now because he can't figure out how I'm doing what I'm doing. Because his old boss been in the business for 20 years, didn't have the same amount of business that he had in 6 months. So these concepts we talk about, regardless of what business you're in, they work. You know, when you get into this networking, who's in a BNI group or a business-to-business networking of any kind, Chamber of Commerce? As you learn these concepts, teach them to the other people in your business networks. Because it will work for any business out there. And if you're the person teaching other business owners how to generate more business, who do you think they're going to think about when they done it? Right? So again, these concepts work. Thank you for sharing that. So prospecting, marketing, a lot of different things. I say make your business prospecting focused and marketing enhanced. Let's talk about people. Let's talk about people. This is the sphere of people. Everybody in the world is what we call a haven't met. So there's 2 types of people in the world. There's 2 types of people in the world. Let's see, quick, I lost that pen already. There's 2 types of people in the world. There's the people that we've met,
People we have.
and the people we haven't met. I know this is very intrinsic and very intense. I know it's very, very
Technical term.
very technical. People we know and people we don't. So everybody in the world is the people we haven't met. So let's say I want to build a real estate business in Morris County. Is it realistic to market to every single person in Morris County?
No.
Not affordably. I believe last time I saw, if I got a billboard, and if you want a billboard, I know Roxanne's got family that's in the billboard business. So buying a billboard gives you roughly a 1/100,000% return. Very, 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 very low. I'm not saying that. It's still good to do. But the billboard business is not good for necessarily what house I'm on. But so it's very, very low return. So again, if I want to advertise the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, all those places all the time, you know, it's not realistic to market to everybody in the world. So the first thing we do is we break it down into a target group. All right, who's the haven't mets that I want to position myself in front of? What are your most common types of target groups? Well, haven't mets. We're going to come back to sphere. It's like haven't mets. I heard F word. Thank you for using that F word. Really appreciate that. As soon as I said it, I got really scared. Tony's like, you heard me say that. Farming is your most common way of going after haven't mets in a target group. So I'm going to look at everybody in Shangam Lake in Randolph. That's where I live. So there's the target group of people that I can farm to or position myself in front of. So there's geographic farming. What other types of farming is there?
Property specific.
Property specific. Give me an example of that.
I've got a family looking for a 3-bedroom townhouse like yours.
So you're looking specifically, you're looking in the community and targeting all the 3 bedrooms. Other types of farming.
Like renters, townhome community that you might have sold in or want to be
Position yourself in.
positioned to be in, yes.
So geographic farming, use the term renters. So you smell to apartment communities in order to turn renters into buyers. When I first started the business full-time in 98, 99, I targeted absentee landlords. So I downloaded the tax records. They'd just gone online, thank God. And anywhere where the property address was different from the owner's address was an absentee landlord. And so I knew if I just called absentee landlords, A, they eventually need a renter, so I'd make money off that. They might want to buy it or sell it. You know, at that time they were absentee landlords by default. They bought it in '87, the market dropped and they couldn't sell it. So my script was pretty simple. Hey Tony, I see you have a house in the Bedminster Hills that you bought back in 1987. How's that investment working for you? Both with me for a second.
Terrible.
Terrible. Oh, why's that?
Upside down by 100,000.
Let's say, well, you were then. I mean, the market's changed a lot in the last 13 years. Would you be interested in knowing what you can get for it now?
Absolutely.
Well, we found in 1999 the prices were finally back to what they were in '87. So I was faxing, thermal fax by the way, thermal fax. I was faxing listing agreements all over the country because this guy in California had no idea that the market had rebounded in New Jersey 13 years later and he could sell his house. And hey, even if you didn't want to sell it, I could still put a renter in there at no charge. When does your lease expire? So I built this great card file. Who's ever had a card file?
Yes.
Every contact in the card file had 2 cards. I filed one alphabetically, and one by the next month I had to follow up with that person. Which then graduated to ACT. Yes, I use ACT as a database. And then top producer, and now EH. So again, geographic farming, demographic farming are all ways to target areas of having mess. What are some other ways we can target people that we don't know? Expired withdrawals, FSBOs. So there's long-term business. What is your long-term business? Your, starts with the D. Your database. Your database will always be your success of your long-term business. But then we have short-term business. Short-term business is business that will turn over in the next 4 to 6 months. FSBOs, expireds, open houses are your 3 So if someone says to me, I need to generate business now, those are the 3 ways to do it. They're already out there saying, ooh, look at me, look at me. As opposed to neighborhood calling, and back in 2003, 2004, we did a lot of neighborhood calling. That was before the what came out, the do not call list. I used to love those calls. They were our holy cow calls. They were actually a different word we used, but I'm trying to be, I'm on video. So it would go like this. We call a neighbor and say, hey, did you know that your neighbor's house just sold? Would you be interested in knowing what it sold for? I said, well, I'll be $465. And they say, holy cow. If they got $465, what could I get for my home? Hey, I'd be happy to come over there and give you a compliment here, my house. Let's just share that with you. But now that we can't do those calls as much anymore, FSBO, expired, open houses are the best ways to get to a target group of people you don't know. Make sense? Nick?
And the playground.
And the playground.
Oh my God. It's like,
You wearing a onesie sitting in the playground right now is terrifying.
but you know what though? People, it gets their attention. No, I was gonna say.
No one says I'm in real estate like me wearing a onesie in the playground.
Who's that guy? He's crazy.
No one says Megan's Law.
Yeah. I was gonna say, a trench coat. Playground always.
A red one.
But networking in a playground.
No, I'm saying, like, since my kid's been old enough to actually, go, like, on these jungle gyms, I just strike up conversations with these parents, and it's awesome.
So another networking group is through schools and child activities. Sporting events.
I met 2 clients and sold them both at a dog park.
Dog park. Kathy.
Without knowing it, when I first started in the business, my kids were little and used to just go walking, with them. And people see you more as a normal person, not as someone that just wants to sell. And really, there were many times that I brought Jennifer with me in the car, and we would show houses. They really like, and they bring their kids. They really liked to know that you're professional, but you're also normal.
Yeah. Normal.
Was normal.
Oh, thank you, yes.
If I ever had a slow day, when we used to live in Randolph, I would go to Greeny's, and sometimes I'd be there like 3 times a day, because I knew I'd see the world, and I'd be out there at least, and I'd have people to talk to.
Of course, nowadays you need a second mortgage to buy anything at Barini's.
That's true.
But so there's some target groups where you can position yourself with having Mets to convert them to what?
Mets.
Mets. The entire game is taking this side of the world into this side of the world, because once you meet someone, you can build a meaningful relationship. And then they turn to Mets. You upgrade them to affiliates, advocates, allied resources. What's an allied resource? Your wealth circle. Those people that you know are going to give you a couple referrals a year. Jill Cannon in Burnsville. 3 years in the business, she was doing almost $20 million a year in sales. Her biggest core advocate was a woman at the high school that was giving her lead after lead after lead. She must have gotten 10 transactions in 1 year from a secretary at the high school. So those people that you know that you have a great relationship with, that will help be an advocate for your business.
The mailman.
The mailman. He knows when people are moving, right? What else?
So someone called me this week, who I know from Facebook, who's a realtor in a neighboring community. And he told me that he actually calls his Facebook friends who he doesn't know, and also friended realtors all around the country to form referral relationships with them, and did this all by picking up the phone and calling people he met on Facebook. So he established a relationship on Facebook, and then took the relationship to the next level.
Active Rain is a very, very good way to build a real estate referral network. I had one woman in my office in Western Mass who was brand new to real estate. And if you or I looked at her, we might not really trust her with selling her house, but she was very popular in active reigning. She was the #1 agent in the state of Massachusetts on active reigning within 6 months in the business. And she had a steady stream of leads coming in because the people that are in that community like to refer business to people in that community. Keller Williams Luxury, Keller Williams Commercial, these are all networks that you can join to get that referral source of those other people across the country.
But there is a KW referral network on Facebook too.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm closing on one this week and getting.
There you go. Nice. I'll happily pay her for
And they answer right away, people answer right away.
So this whole world is about building haven't mets into mets and then building your database, but people that know you, love you, and respect you. Right? Dave Jenks, if you look in this book was written by Gary Keller with Dave Jenks and Jay Papazan. Dave Jenks says, the size and success of your real estate business is in direct proportion to the number of people when they think of real estate, they think of you. The size and success of your real estate business is in direct proportion to the number of people when they think of real estate, they think of you. For dramatic effect, the size and success of your real estate business is in direct proportion to the number of people when they think of real estate, they think of you. You. I had someone say Susan Fauci at one time. no, you. Yes, it's good that you know Susan Fauci, but no, it's you. So, as I said before, your job is to make your world really, really small and make yourself the biggest realtor in it. So, shut your eyes for a second. I know, we're in New Jersey, and it's like, I'm going to give you one eye shut. That's it. One eye. So, let's imagine you're going to go out to a really nice restaurant tonight. What's the first restaurant that pops into your head to go for dinner? Let's say you're going to go out and buy a new pair of shoes. What's the first place you're going to go to look for those shoes? If you're going to go and buy a new car, what's the first brand of car you're looking at?
Mercedes.
And if you're booking that dream vacation tomorrow, what's the first place you're going to go to?
Italy.
So open your eyes for a second. Now, every one of those statements, when I said it, did you have something that popped right in your head? It was the first Neiman Marcus or Joss Bank or whatever the case may be. Something that popped in my head. And when you think about it, you can always think of number 2. If that doesn't work, or this. And everything else blends together. That's called mind share. Okay? You want to have the #1 mind share in the minds of all the people. That way, when they think of real estate, they think of our competitors get that. That's why the brokers send out mailings every month. It's in the form of a mortgage statement or insurance payments. Because the more times their name is seen, the better chance the consumer has of remembering that company. We know that they'll remember an individual person more than a company. We teach this as a way to build that relationship. It's called an 8x8. 8 touches over 8 weeks. 8 touches over 8 weeks. So when you meet someone, FSBO, open house, expired, you send them 8 things or communicate with them 8 times over 8 weeks. This whole concept was actually created by a company called Hobbs Herder. Who's ever heard of Hobbs Herder? Hobbs Herder is a marketing company out of California. And back in the 80s, they said, hey, you think there's a way to systematically do this? So they called one neighborhood and said, if you sold your house tomorrow, who would you call? And 65% of that neighborhood said, we call Jim Smith with XYZ Realty. So that guy had mind share in that neighborhood. They then created a fake agent. They created a fictitious agent. So we'll just call him George Glass. They created this guy, George Glass. They aligned him with a local real estate company and started marketing George Glass to that neighborhood 8 times over 8 weeks. At the end of the 8 weeks, they called up that neighborhood and they said, if you're going to sell your home right now, who would you call? Guess who they said?
George Glass.
Over 75% of the neighborhood said, we call George Glass. George Glass didn't exist. They actually found that real estate office started getting calls for George Glass. He had a reputation for not returning calls.
You should recruit
Lack of follow-up.
He had really bad follow-up. But they proved that by systematically marketing to an area or a group 8 times over 8 weeks will make you the #1 realtor in the minds of those people. So this is what the 8x8 might look like. Drop off a letter of introduction. Send something. I'm not a big fan of recipe cards. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of recipe cards. If you send out a recipe card, what question is that going to create?
That you're about food.
Hey, is that a tablespoon or a teaspoon in that recipe? Who here is a professional chef? One. There's always one in the room. If I can say I'm a professional green egg cook, I'm a professional chef. But you wanna send out real estate specific things, so when they call you, it's a real estate specific question. So send out an item of value, another item of value, make a telephone call, send a market report, send a real estate investment or house maintenance tip, make another phone call.
146.
So when we're on page 146, we'll give you the breakdown of 8x8 now. We teach a bunch of different classes. So when you take a class on open houses, we're gonna show you what 8x8 for an open house guest looks like. If you're calling an expired, we'll show you what an 8x8 for an expired looks like. FSBO, got different 8x8 for that. So for every target market you're doing, you're gonna slightly adjust the 8x8, but the point is the same. 8 touches over 8 weeks allows them, after 8 weeks, when they think of real estate, who should they think of?
You.
You. Not me, it's you. Questions on the 8x8? So the concept here is, once I meet someone, if I put them on an 8x8, 8 touches over 8 weeks, after 8 weeks, I got a decision to make. Did I develop some type of relationship with this person? Was there some back and forth? Did they email me back? Did they text me back? Did they call me? Did they accept my friend request to be in touch? And if there was, then continue marketing to them 33 times a year. 33 times a year. And if there wasn't, well, just mail to them once a month. So once you use this 8x8 technique, and we have lots of classes on this, once you use this 8x8 technique, will allow you to build your mind share in the minds of those people. You can then decide whether you continue touching 33 times a year or 12 times a year. I mentioned before, I've got this theory, so I'm going to share it with you right now. Statistically, how many conversations will the average person, not the realtors in the room, how many conversations will the average Joe have in a year where the topic of real estate comes up?
7.
According to the NER, it's about 7. The average person has 7 conversations a year where real estate comes up. Now my theory, so I mentioned it before, my theory is there's a specific time of year where the majority of these conversations happen. When do you think that is?
Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Social.
Between Halloween and the New Year. You're getting together with work friends, you're getting together with family that you haven't seen. Yeah, me and Mimsy are gonna put the house on the market after the New Year.
Bonuses.
Yeah, bonuses coming in and we're ready to invest in something bigger. So I'm convinced that of those 7, at least 4 to 5 of those conversations happen at some point during the holidays. So I'm gonna challenge everyone in this room, if you wanna have an incredible first quarter, right now start doing an 8x8. Send one thing to everyone in your database each week for the next 8 weeks. You know when they have that Thanksgiving dinner, and someone says, yeah, we're thinking about selling a house, what do you think they're gonna say? I just got a great market report from Bev, my realtor, who was talking about it. You should give her a call. When they go to the other holiday party, someone else mentions it. Oh, you know, I just got a call from Lou. I just talked to Lou the other day. He says the market's booming. You should give him a call. You're gonna be top of mind for all those people in your database during the most important period of the year. Who's gonna make a point to do an 8x8 over the next 8 weeks? So I'm going to suggest to you, if you came here, people from your office, your market center, your group, do it as a group. Set a standing time once a week, every Tuesday at noon. You're going to spearhead this here, by the way, Sikhi. You get together as a group. The first week, you assemble your list and make sure you have your target list of who you're going to do. Next week, you're going to send a letter of some kind or a card. If you're sending out a holiday calendar, send it in November, not in December. If the holiday calendar, if the new calendar is the only thing you send out in a year, save your money and don't send it. No, if the only thing you send out is one calendar a year, it's not going to work. Who here has ever taken a listing with someone else's calendar hanging on the fridge?
Love it.
I was taking
If that's their one touch, you need to touch them 33 times a year to have them remember you. One touch a year is not going to work. We've got a very short attention span.
Yeah, Quantum Digital has these postcards that you can set it up one time and goes every month, and they are Keller Williams already.
Personal marketing company has something similar. Once you sell a house, you set it up one time and it sends out 4 things every year for the next 5 years. It's a package of 20. Personal marketing company. So there's a bunch of different tools you can use, but it all starts with doing something. And right now, if you want to guarantee yourself a great first quarter and a great spring market, do this from October 15th to December 15th. Okay?
I know of a great tool, eEdge has it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty cool, this little thing we have, and it's free.
It's free.
All
It
this
does it
stuff
for
set
you.
up in there already.
Well, here's the challenge. Here's the challenge with the free version of eEdge, and I'll be really candid and honest about this. It's digital. It's great. You will never get the conversion you want off of a 100% digital contact program.
No, you can mail them, they can pull them.
Oh, they do mail them too?
Oh, absolutely. They will mail them for you.
And then call
It's
them.
not free. That was your point.
Well, as soon as you mail, you're gonna pay something.
Yeah.
So a 33 touch should look like this. So a 33 touch can't be 33 emails a year. That would be spam and that would be obnoxious. A 33 touch can't be 33 phone calls a year. That would be considered harassment and you would be creepy. 33 postcards a year is just dumb. And you're killing trees. All right? So 33 touches a year. It might be 18 a combination of emails, letters, mailings, things like that. Who here sends out just listed, just sold cards? Who here sends this out to huge neighborhoods all around the house where no one knows you? I mean, I'll be honest with you, I did for a long time. You have a choice. When you send out with just listed, just sold, you can either send it to a bunch of people that don't know you, or you can send it to your database to remind them that you're in the real estate business and you're succeeding in it. So I would tell you, every time you send out just listed, just sold, send 200 out to your database. Make that one of your, that should be 6 of your 33 touches. Could be just listed or just sold. Remind the people that already know you, love you, and respect you that you're selling real estate. Make sense? So 18 touches could be postcards, mails, 4 newsletters, 8 handwritten notes, 4 phone calls, birthday, anniversary, holiday observance. So 33 touches should be some types of touches that are always different, so that way it doesn't look obnoxious. Make sense? How do you feel about 33 touch? Who thinks it's excessive?
I feel like it's a little.
It feels excessive and awkward. When I
It's
got,
only excessive if you just do one thing.
yeah, you do one thing. If you're doing it, it's a little touch here and a little touch there. It just kind of surrounds them. Back in early 2000s, I heard a stat that said you've got to be in front of the consumer roughly once every 60 days to have them remember you. Then around 2004, 2005, you have to be in front of the consumer once every 30 days to have them remember you. Now we've got social media and phones and emails and all this other stuff going on. We have really short attention spans right now. You've got to be in front of someone once every 11 days to have them remember you when the time for the decision comes up.
You know, I only pay attention to the paper mail when that Bed Bath & Beyond coupon comes in. That's the only time I see stuff to take out of the mail. So I mean,
Who here leverages the Lowe's referral program for your databases? Guys, if you're not leveraging the Lowe's Realtor Benefit Program, you're missing out on an awesome opportunity. You could send twice a year. Twice a year, you can log into the Lowe's, just go and Google Lowe's Realtor Benefit. Twice a year, you can set up people in your database and send them out 2 10% off coupons a year for anything they buy at Lowe's. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, I built a shed this past summer. Kind of obnoxious, but I built a shed. The kids had fun. The wife thought it was nuts, but it was fun. I sent myself a coupon, and I went and saved $200 by buying all my supplies at one time with this coupon. So they send out this Lowe's coupon to your database, courtesy of you. And actually, I think now they're just doing it email-wise. They used to do a physical mail, but now it's just email. But here's a gift from Michael Brand, your realtor. Come shop and save 10%. Okay?
I just wanted to say that I've been taking advantage of the testimonials in my mailings. So there's a website I signed up for called realsatisfied.com.
REAL?
Yeah, real, like real estate, and then satisfied.com. And basically it's a survey that you send to your buyers and sellers after you close. And it only takes them a few minutes to fill it out, but at the end you get a really nice testimonial with like a real satisfied emblem on it, and then you get a report to see how they answered each question based on what they thought of what it was like to work with you. So you bring that to listing appointments with you and so on. But anyway, so what
How
I
much you pay
did,
for that service a month?
$80 a year.
$80 a year.
And then you
Real
can
satisfied.
syndicate it to Facebook, Twitter, and Realtor.com. So what I was gonna say was I took, the first time I tried this, I got a listing for $465,000 and it's under contract in 3 days. And I took the testimonial, I put it on a postcard and sent it within half a mile of a house that I recently sold in that neighborhood, and said, I just sold your neighbor's house on North Road and she recommends me. And I sent out 300 of them, cost me like $100, and within 2 weeks I got an email and listed the house another week later, and then 2 weeks later it went on the market and we sold it. And it cost me $100, and the commission's gonna be $11,000. And it's like, that's like the only mailing I'm gonna do now is that one, you know?
It's relatively inexpensive. I think they say 14% of consumers trust brand advertising.
Well, the
Over
email I got
70%.
The email I got from the guy the guy whose house I listed, the email was, I'm emailing you because your postcard was so perfectly targeted.
Nice.
That's what he said.
Awesome.
Like,
Do you have to ask permission from the person that?
oh, I asked her
Yeah.
permission, she said it was okay.
Well, especially a system like that, I'm sure that's built into that realsatisfied.com.
But what's cool is after you get the testimonial, and then you approve it, you can then, it prompts you to send them a $10 Starbucks gift card as a thank you.
Nice. We're gonna follow up.
Yeah.
So, get testimonials. If you're not putting those testimonials, recommendations on Trulia, Zillow, all those places, you're missing a huge opportunity. If you go and buy a product and you've got 4 different places to sell it, do you ever look at the reviews of that seller before you buy? It's the same thing with Trulia and Zillow. People can see, if I'm looking at a house and it gives me 3 realtors, no recommendations, or 32 recommendations, who do you think the consumer is going to choose? Yeah, so over 70%, 74% trust a peer recommendation when they're looking to buy a product or service. So definitely make sure you're plugging into things like that. Awesome, Nick, thank you. So this 8x8 33 touch, if you decide you don't want to spend the time or money touching them 33 times a year because you don't have the relationship, just touch them once a month. Once a month. That's your traditional farming, is 1 touch a month. Here's the thing. Our whole concept, everything in the book on page 187 says, if you market these people 8 times over 8 weeks, and then continue 33 times a year, you're going to do 2 pieces of closed business for every 12 people you market to. 2 pieces of closed business for every 12 people you market to. So, what do you think of that number?
Fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Well, we say 12 to, let me give you an idea where this number comes from. We say 12 to 2 and not 6 to 1 for a reason. These are 2 different types of business. One of them is going to be a sale, and one is going to be a referral. So what we're saying in this is if you market systematically to the people that know you, love you, and respect you, 33 times a year, everyone in your database will move once every 12 years. Is that a realistic number?
Yeah.
What's the average right now in America?
7.
It's actually up to about 9. With the market shift, it went from an average of 6 to an average of 9. People are staying longer because they can't afford to move. So nationally, it's a 9-year average. We're saying they're going to move once every 12 years. So what we're saying is if you market systematically to your database, you're going to get 1 referral from people in your database every 12 years. Is that realistic?
Mm-hmm.
Can I share something? Can I be honest with you for a second? If you only get 1 referral from your database every 12 years, you suck. Let's be real for a second. If that's all you're getting, you're either A, a really bad realtor and should consider going referral, or B, which is more likely, you're probably a secret agent. You're not telling anybody or reminding them you're in the business. So let's go back to this for a second. I need 31 closings, right? How many people do I have to systematically market to get enough leads to get me 31 closings? 12 to 2. 31 closings. You need to build a database that you can systematically market to 192 people. 192 people. That way, whenever they think of real estate, they think of you. That way, they're working to get you 1 referral every 12 years. That way, when they move once every 12 years, they're going to use you. So we're not talking about blast out postcards to the world or excessive advertising. Position yourself as the #1 realtor in the mind of 192 people. Can create that kind of business. let's just go higher, let's just say 250 to think that maybe you won't be that good the first year or two you're doing this, so add a little bit more to it perhaps. But you only need 200 people to build a business that's gonna net you how much money? Yes?
Would you mind just running through that real fast again, how you got to the 200?
So what I did was 12 to 2, so if I do, if I wanna do 31 transactions a year, I multiply it by 6. 12 to 2 is the same as 6 to 1. So if I take 31 multiplied by 6, I was doing the math in my head, am I right with 192 or am I wrong? 6 times 31, 180. 186, so I was a little bit high. So I just pretty much said, in order to get to 12, if I did 192, knowing that for every 12 I'll do 2 pieces of business, this will net me the 31 closings. So I just did a factor of 6. Now on the flip side, let's say I want to spend my entire life marketing to people that don't know me. Because there's people out there that say, oh, I don't want to be rude or obnoxious to people that know me. I don't want to be that guy. Now I want to ask for business. It's really awkward. You're right, because people would much rather do business with someone they don't know than with someone they do know. But let's just say you don't, and you want to build your business this way. Well, to do 31 transactions, it's going to take 50 people marketing to every year to do 1 closed business. So you have to market yourself to 30 times 50, 1,500. So if you have a choice to build your brand based on marketing to 1,500 people or to 192 people, it's your choice. Both will give you the same results. Who would prefer to market to 192 people? Julie, who would you market to?
I'd go the 192.
The 192. The 192. Because it's a lot easier to build a system affordably that can market to this group of people versus this group of people. So, again, met versus not met. The concepts make sense. I will tell you, there's people building huge businesses based on this concept. So you get to say, oh, that won't work or it won't work. But I can tell you it does work. So try it. Try it. Questions, thoughts, concerns, excitements about met versus not met? So again, there on page, in your workbook, there's an exercise on page 13. On page 13, how many people currently in your database? Well, thank you. How many people are currently in your database? Now, for those of you that said, what database? Well, that's step number 1. Step number 1 is go back to your office, check with your team leader, your productivity coach, your agent services, and say, help me, I need to build the database as quick as humanly possible. Because the quicker you build the database to 192 people and start marketing to it, and what's the best time of year to start marketing using an 8x8? Now. Why?
Talk about it.
Before the new year.
Because it's the holidays, and that's when people are going to come in contact with people that are looking to buy or sell. Will they think of you? We had this thing when we first started 3612 a few years ago. The 12 people in the class started reconnecting with their past customers. And one agent, Kathy Nielsen, was so distraught. She came back week 2 like in tears. She made 5 phone calls. 3 out of the 5 said the same thing. Oh my God, Kathy, we had no idea you were still in the real estate business. We just bought a house. Here's a quick tip. If you're not constantly reminding people, including your family, don't tell my wife I said this. Her brother called us a few years ago and said, hey, I need your advice. I invited a realtor over to give me a price on my house to list it, and I want to hear what you thought. And this was like right when we were getting married. I said, do you realize how it is that I support this family? So remind everybody you know, because it's your family that will disappoint you the most. Isn't that the truth? Sorry, by the way, for any of my family members that watch this video. So, again, met, haven't met, do this little worksheet there that says how many people do you currently have in your database to accomplish your goals? How many people do you need in your database to accomplish your goals? And your job is to build it. So if you've already got 300, then make sure they're qualified. What are the basic things you need on people in your database to have them be a good database contact? 4 things. Phone number,
Email.
email address, home address, and their name. I'm gonna say the average. You need their name, their telephone number, an email address, and a home address. Those 4 things will allow you to market to them a lot of different ways. So when I say to people, if someone says, oh, I've got 1,000 people in my database, par that down to nothing. Par that down to the minimal and just do a really good job doing it. One real quick exercise. I'm gonna ask 5 people in the room. If you know the number, raise your hand. How many people in your basic database? Everyone here has a database. What's everyone here's basic database?
Cell phone.
Pass.
If you've got someone's name and telephone number in here, you've met them at some point, right? So this is how many names in your phone? How many names and contacts in your phone? How many?
1365.
1365. 1130. Somebody use 1311, 2400. What's that? 5300. Wow. 5300. Roughly 8,000. If you have an iPhone, go to your contact list and scroll all the way to the bottom, and you should have a total. So if you go to your contact list, phone, contacts, I'm sure there's a faster way to do this, but I do this. This is my high-tech way of doing it.
Yeah, just press Z.
Oh, that's a good tip. 460? 3,000. So roughly, those numbers that just came out, you have a number? 2,000. So we, in our collective data, stay with me guys, we've only got a little bit of time left. In our collective database, we've got roughly 11,000 Mets sitting in this room. Hey guys, come on back. Come on back. I know whenever I do a type of training, there's a lot of excitement over it. A lot of excitement. So out of those 5 people, they have 11,000 contacts. What's 11,000 divided by 6? Roughly 1,800 about. Those 5 people have enough contacts in their phone to generate 1,800 transactions in the next 12 months. Okay.
If you have a database, off of your phone, like a real database, and say it's like 700, how many would you really send out to?
So what I'm going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a database and I'm going to break it down to what I would call A's. Right? Name, telephone number, home address, email address. And if you call them up and say, hey, Sekou, this is Kathy. Are they going to say, hi, Kathy, or are they going to say who? Right? So I'm going to take that 700, I'm going to par it down to the people I truly think are A's, and I'm going to start with that first. Now again, let's say we just get it to 200. You have enough there for about 32 transactions a year. Well, for you, I get it down to 350, because you want to be averaging between 40 and 50 transactions a year at minimum. At minimum. So I'd say...
I do, thank you for that letter.
That's the power of having a great assistant. She makes me look good.
I know.
So I was in Texas. Like, how'd you sign these from Texas? I'm like,
Magic.
Magic. So again, make your world really small and just make yourself the biggest realtor in it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Net marketing makes sense?
Yeah.
Make your world really small and make yourself the biggest realtor in it. Because again, 200 people will give you enough leads to get to 32 closed transactions just by building your brand to those 200 people. Now, I'd much rather be a big presence to 200 than one of those guys for 1,000. So make your world really small, make sure you're the biggest realtor in it. So again, if you get nothing out of today, take those 2 things so far. What are the 2 things you should take out of today so far?
Really small,
With whatever your number here is. And what's the other number you should know? How many appointments you need a week. 2 numbers you should know is how many people do you need to market yourself to get to your transaction goal. And the second number is how many appointments you need a week to get to your transaction goal. Those are the 2 most important numbers you should be getting out of today. We've got 10 minutes, which means we're not getting through all this course. I told you that at best we were getting through 16 things. But that's okay, because hopefully we're getting out what was important to get out of this class.
Can I make an announcement?
Sure.
Luckily for those
at KW Met, I'm going to be doing an MREA book club. It starts on Monday the 13th. It's going to be 5 to 7. And to be prepared for the first Monday, you need to read from page 64.
So start, and for those of you that aren't here, go back to your office and start an MRA book club. If you go to kellerinc.com, under the MREA book at the very bottom, there's a section called downloads.
You gotta scroll all the way down there.
You scroll all the way down the bottom. Julie Katrina came to me and said, it's not there anymore. I'm like, it's there. It's not there anymore. It's there. There's a whole thing there you can download to give you all the topics you need for an MREA book club in your market center.
So where do you go for that?
kellerinc.com. Click on books, MREA book club, scroll all the way down to the bottom.
And that has it set up for 14 weeks, which is, wow. So we are gonna condense it in our office to 7 weeks. So we're gonna be doubling up on the reading every week, but if you can do that, then we can get it done in 7 weeks, so we can start 2015.
So here's the 4 laws of lead generation. You gotta build a database, feed it every day. So how many people should you be adding to your database every day? 10. Let me give you a concept for a second. If you added 10 people a day, 5 days a week, how many people are you adding to your database every week?
10.
10 times 5, 50. 4 times a week, 4 times a month, how many is that?
200.
200. Over 12 months, how many is that?
24.
So if you do 10 a day, that's 2,400 people over the course of a year. What's 2,400 divided by 6? You can build a database big enough in 1 year to create 400 closed transactions a year. Oh, well, I don't need 400 closed transactions. That's okay. It's okay. There's people that do a great job of doing this that don't sell real estate at all. They build a marketing system to produce the leads that they refer to people and get 25% of it just for sitting at home with a great marketing system without ever servicing anyone real estate-wise. So again, let's say you don't need 400 transactions a year. Well, take your 25 and refer out the other 375. That's okay too. That's okay too. Do I get Denise? So, food for thought. I'm going to touch on 2 things real quick, just so you know where to find it. On page 157, we talked a little bit earlier about the budget model. How much should we spend on the stuff? So I said you should spend about 10% on lead generation. This is where it came from. About 10% on salaries and admin. Occupancy, rent, technology, phones, supplies, education, dues, MLS, that kind of stuff. Equipment, auto insurance. The cool thing about this graph, it actually, where's that in the book? Page 157. Yep. The cool thing about this is it says if you're doing $6 million in business, this is what it should look like. 10 million, 17 million, 26 million, or 40 million. So it adjusts the percentages a little bit based on how much business you do. But this is how much money you should be spending in each of these categories based on how much money you're bringing in. How much do we spend on our lead generation cost, roughly? 10%. How much do we spend on salaries?
10%.
Roughly 10%. No more than 12, but roughly 10%. And those after your broker are your 2 biggest costs to run your real estate business. So coming up in the next few weeks, I'm sure every market center is going to have it. I know we are. I'm sure others will. If you don't have one, call me and we'll get you somebody. Over the next month, we're going to be having a lot of classes on business planning for next year. And the MREA business planning class, which is a full day class, is where we're going to break into the economic model, the budget model a lot more. So we'll talk more about Mint, about setting up goals, about making sure you're budgeting properly and holding yourself accountable to the budget. So the MREA business planning class is going to get a lot deeper into the budget.
You know, one thing, when you mentioned the phone as a database, I forgot about the mobile app to send people in touch.
Yeah, there's lots of people making a lot of money marketing the mobile app to their clients. If they're going to use the mobile app like Realtor or one of those, would you rather have them use yours? Nick?
There's a cool mobile app that I just started using for home buyers after they close on their house. And actually, Keller Williams, I believe, just made them an approved vendor. I think they're gonna, it's for free for Keller Williams agents now. It's called Homekeeper.
Hmm.
But there's no, yeah, they were